I think a lot of people were really kind of surprised that, about this decision from the county, given the kind of nature of these cases and what's involved here. People were thinking, well, maybe you want to give the state a chance to get everything right before moving forward. But, the county is saying that they're going to handle all of these cases one at a time. And if there are any problems with any of these cases, it'll be up to the attorneys, other parties involved, to bring these issues up before the judges and the courts. Now, yesterday, Governor Hobbs and the state attorney general asked all 15 counties to pause hearings involving welfare cases for 2 weeks because of a problem with the Department of Child Safety's tracking system known as Guardian. According to the governor, the data system may not have been uploading all the documents in some cases that could have changed the legal outcomes for these children. In July, the Auditor General published a report raising similar questions about the Guardian data system. But once again, the governor said she discovered this latest problem just last week and is now supplying DCS with more help.
First of all, this is an issue that started when the system was implemented back in 2021. Director Lujan, in his short time at the agency, has done a lot to turn around things that we have seen as problematic. This is one example of that.
And during this morning's press conference, the governor said she doesn't think that Maricopa County moving forward with these cases, despite her request to pause them, will affect her efforts to try to fix the problem right now. And I also spoke to a former assistant attorney general for the Department of Child Safety who told me she's been impressed so far with the state's response. She also told me that she was very surprised with Maricopa County's decision not to put these hearings on pause and these child welfare hearings. I send it back to you guys.
Hopefully we'll do what's right by those kids. Dennis, thank you.